Hi everyone, this is Fabi here, and today we are going to talk about the iPhone 12 mini. Now, as an iPhone 11 Pro Max user, the obvious upgrade for me would have been the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and that's what I'm actually going to get, but because of reasons I didn't get my pre-order on time, so I just went out and bought an iPhone 12 mini just to play with the new series of phones. So what we'll be trying to determine after this video is if the iPhone 12 mini is enough of a phone for those of us coming from the Pro Max versions of the iPhone. So obviously the first thing that impressed me was the phone. I did have small phones before. I did have the iPhone 5, I had the iPhone 6, but when I bought the iPhone 6 I realized that I actually wanted to go for the 6 Plus, so instead I returned the iPhone 6, got the 6 Plus, and ever since I've been using only big phones. What you don't get with big phones though is the ability to use them one-handed, and while I can reach the upper left-hand corner of the screen when I use it with one hand, it's still much more manageable than something like the iPhone 12s or the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Another area where I feel like the size of the phone is really an advantage is when typing, and especially if you're using a swipe keyboard like I do. Because the iPhone 12 mini is smaller, you can just flick your finger really easily all throughout the screen and write much faster than I would do, for example, on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, where it just feels like your finger is traveling so much to reach some of the letters. Oh, and the size of it also plays a huge role when you have it in your pocket, because it's much more easy to maneuver it, to take it out of your pocket or put it in. Now, we can't talk about the size of the phone without talking about the weight of it, and the fact is the iPhone 11 Pro Max that I'm coming from is almost twice as heavy as this one, and you do feel it. When you have it in your pocket, with this phone you almost don't feel it, whereas with the bigger phones, with the Max phones, you almost feel like you're carrying a brick with you. Of course, nowadays we all take a lot of pictures with our phones, and so we know that having a good camera is really important. And I'm happy to say that the iPhone 12 mini does not disappoint, as the pictures are really incredibly detailed, the colors are popping, and they are really vibrant. I wouldn't say that this is quite up to the level that Samsung does the saturation, but it does feel like the colors are more saturated and it's just more true to life as the iPhone 11 Pro Max was. Another upgrade to the cameras on the iPhone 12s is the fact that it now allows the ultrawide camera to take night mode shots. This doesn't change the fact that the ultrawide camera is not great for night shots, but it allows for longer exposures and it does turn out decent photos. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this, make sure to click the like button and subscribe, as it really does help me out. The fourth thing that impressed me about the iPhone 12 mini was the fact that Apple didn't compromise on speaker quality and loudness, given that they made it really smaller. When compared to my iPhone 11 Pro Max, I'm happy to say that the speakers are probably only around 15% less loud, and they're just as clear. This phone can fill a whole room with sound, but of course there's always better alternatives. But if you don't have those alternatives on you, it's good to know that the speakers really do a good job. Now, the fifth thing really won't come as a surprise, as Apple has really been in the lead when it comes to their performance and their chips. But the fact is, this phone is faster than my monstrosity of an iPhone 11 Pro Max, and it's also faster than all of the Android flagships out there. This won't mean much now in 2020, as both phones are really fast, but 3 or 4 years down the line, when these phones are not going to be new anymore, the iPhone 12 mini is going to keep on pushing and be faster when the iPhone 11 Pro Max is going to be slower. Sixth thing that you need to know is that if you're buying this phone for the 5G capabilities, you have to make sure that your carrier is officially supported by Apple. Because if that's not the case, then the 5G option is not even going to show up in settings, and you won't be able to use 5G until Apple certifies your network. As you can see from the screenshot to my right, the carrier that I'm currently using doesn't have support for this, and the highest I can go as far as radio technology goes is LTE or 4G. Also, something to keep in mind is the fact that if you are using dual SIM, you won't be able to use 5G, at least for now. Apple has said that this feature will come out in a future update, but because this doesn't depend only on Apple, we don't know for sure. A lot of people are concerned with the battery life of this iPhone, and of course this is a valid concern. This phone is smaller than all of the other iPhones, and consequently the battery is smaller as far as the capacity goes. And the fact is, from setting up this phone and taking a few shots so that I can show you the camera quality, it does seem like the battery drains much faster than my iPhone 11 Pro Max. If you want to buy this phone and battery life is a concern to you, I do have some great news though. This is an OLED screen now, and that means that if you are using dark mode and a dark background on your home screen, it will mean that a lot of pixels are going to be turned off and they won't use as much battery. This display really is a lot more power efficient when it displays black backgrounds or dark colors, because those pixels don't have to be turned on as much as if you were to show white pictures. And from the tests I've seen, because I haven't been able to test it myself yet, the battery seems to be lasting about 35% less than the Pro Max versions and about 20% less than the normal Pro or normal iPhone 12 models. As much as I don't mind the notch on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, on the iPhone 12 mini it kind of bothers me, and that is because it's just as big as on the 11 Pro Max, and that leaves us with a really small space on the left and right side of the notch, and that's where your signal, battery and Wi-Fi indicator go, and on the iPhone 12 mini it just feels like they're cramped and it feels like they don't have space there. Another thing about the screen, after disabling True Tone and Night Shift, I have noticed the screen does have a little bit of a yellow tint to it. I'm not going to say that this is a disadvantage, but it just feels like the whites are more white on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. Last thing we are going to talk about in this video is the fact that the Wi-Fi connection is much faster and much more stable. I also expect this to be the case when talking about LTE, because Apple finally switched back to Qualcomm when it comes to their radio chips, and throughout the years in many tests the Qualcomm chips have come out on top when it comes to data throughput, especially at the edge of the cell coverage of your network. So in the end, would I recommend this phone? Well, here's the thing. In 2020 especially, if you want a small but powerful phone, you don't really have much of an option. With Android, most of the time, if you want flagship-like performance, you have to go with the flagship, and those are always going to be huge phones. Now with the iPhone 12 mini, Apple has put themselves in a really good spot because they're the only ones selling a flagship which is really small. And of course, this is really great news for those people who have always bought the iPhone SE for the small size. Now they can get the small size with all the features of the current flagship and with no compromises. Here's what I'll say. If you like small phones, I don't think things will get much better than the iPhone 12 mini, and the thing is, we don't even know if Apple will make an iPhone 13 mini next year, so if you want a small phone, get it now, because we won't know if Apple will make this in the future. My guess is if they will sell a lot of these phones, they will produce an iPhone 13 mini next year, and that will most likely be the case, but you can never know, and this phone really is as good as it can get for 2020. Anyways, make sure to stay tuned for the next video in which we are going to compare the camera of the 11 Pro Max to that of the 12 mini as far as the main camera goes, the ultra-wide camera, the front-facing camera, and of course, all of the video modes. Anyways, I'll catch up with you in the next video. Stay tuned.